it's recording. All right, so participants are coming in. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes, let it fill up, and then we'll start the program. All right, let's get this show on the road. Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Together with my colleague, Kristen Kelly, my name is Dave Fatizo. Happy Friday to everybody. We are at the end of the week. I hope that you all have some good plans for the weekend. Relative to today, we are offering you our third edition to a series that we call Business Today. This is a series where we ask local Long Island businesses to join us and engage in conversations about them as well as their businesses. Today's panelists include Mark Fogel, President and CEO of Acres Capital, Joseph Horowitz, Director of Audit for Stetson Cyber Group, and Chris Ostrowski, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Mid-Island Mortgage. And before we get into the event, I'd like to just talk a little bit about our panelists. So let's start off with Mark. Mark Fogel founded Acres Capital in 2012, recognizing the need for providing construction financing to the underserved middle market commercial real estate space. He leads the executive team as CEO and president. He is also CEO, president, and board member of Acres Commercial Realty Group, formerly known as Exantis Capital Corp. Mark has over 20 years of experience in commercial real estate finance. He is a frequent panelist at commercial real estate conferences and has lectured at universities on a wide range of topics. He holds a bachelor's and science degree in accounting from University of Delaware and a master's of science degree in real estate investment and development from New York University. Everybody, welcome Mark Fogel. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Next on the list is Joe Horowitz. Joe is the Director of Audit for Stetson Cyber Group and has spent his 20-plus year career as a collaborative, result-driven audit and risk business partner who drives organizations to achieve measurable and attainable goals. Joe has comprehensive experience in all aspects of audit, specializing in organizational and technical risk for a wide range of industries, including government, healthcare, technology, cable and communications, consumer electronics, and management consulting. Joe is certified in many areas of this industry and a member of several different industry-specific organizations. He received his BS in Business Management and Finance from Brooklyn College. Everybody, welcome Joe Horowitz. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for being part of the panel. Really appreciate it. And then we have Chris Ostrowski. Chris is a Director of Marketing and Business Development at New York's longest operating mortgage banker, Mid-Island Mortgage, in its Westbury, New York headquarters. Prior to Mid-Island Mortgage, Chris oversaw all external marketing and internal communications for publicly traded commercial real estate lender Arbor Realty Trust. Chris's comprehensive real estate marketing expertise derives from his early career experience as a commercial and residential real estate industry journalist and magazine editor. Chris graduated with a bachelor's of science degree in journalism from the Ohio University. Everybody, please welcome Chris. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for attending, everyone.
So today, I will be asking questions to each of you relative to how each of your respected businesses navigated through the past pandemic. You will each have a couple of minutes to answer the questions that I ask. And with all that being said, I'd like to begin. So in 2020, we all know brought some major challenges to all of us. So let's start off with Joe. Talk to us about how your business was impacted by the pandemic.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Dave. Prior to the pandemic, we were predominantly looking at businesses from their being in-house. We're protecting their business from cybersecurity from the inside, servers, regular desktops, people working in the office. Once the pandemic came around, everybody started working from home. We had to switch gears and start looking at cybersecurity also for mobile devices, for laptops, home devices like routers and any other devices that they were using at home, printers, you name it. So we really had to become a blended company of looking at different devices, different ways people work from home, and maybe they were doing a blended at home and remote, at remote and in the office. So it was really it was a shift for us. We were, these little small businesses weren't really prepared that we worked with, or these school districts or the municipalities. They weren't prepared for cybersecurity, and we had to come in and help them out that way. From an internal standpoint, we were the same thing. We had to all of a sudden shift and all work from home as much as we could, and being very hands-on that we are. It was a little bit of a change. It was getting used to not going down the hall and talking about the problem a particular company had and trying to get people on Zoom or Teams when everybody was overloading the circuits and you couldn't get through to anyone on Zoom or Teams.
I tell you, cybersecurity is a big thing these days. So I applaud you and all of your efforts on what you do. I feel like, every time, as of late, the past few months, you open up the news day and there was a cyber attack from here or there. So what you guys do is warranted, and I'm sure everybody out there appreciates it. So thank you. Mark, talk to us a little bit about how it affected your industry, please.
The industry was affected pretty dramatically. I don't want to sort of dismiss the fact that there was a pandemic and a lot of people passed away and it was a horrible situation. It still is.
Yeah.
But it actually was a big benefit to our company. We are a lender in commercial real estate. A lot of the lenders that we compete against had some problems, a lot of problems. In fact, as you mentioned, we took over a publicly traded mortgage REIT called Exantis back last July, about a year ago today, because they were hemorrhaging due to the pandemic. They had borrowed money, their lenders called that money, and the board sort of panicked and hired an investment banker to figure out options. And we came in with a whole bunch of rescue capital and took over the company. So it doubled the size of our company almost overnight last July. We went from 25 employees to 50 employees. We took over a publicly traded company and went from about $1.5 billion of assets to $3 billion of assets almost overnight. And so it really sort of launched us to the next level, benefiting from, sadly enough, the mistakes of others. And, I know it sounds opportunistic, but, that's what happens in times like this in our industry. The strong survive and the weak collapse. And it happened in 2008 also. And, the strong survived and, a handful of lenders just disappeared off the face of the earth. So it was a positive experience, and it was really interesting to try to take over a company, diligence the company, capitalize it, and do all the things that you need to do with everybody working from remote locations. It was quite the feat, and we did it in 2.5 months. And so thanks to the partners that we had, we made it all happen pretty quickly.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about how this pandemic has really hurt the commercial real estate sector, and I don't know how much it hurt the Long Island area, but in reading all the past news information, people are fleeing, Manhattan, and businesses are leaving Manhattan, et cetera, et cetera. How has that affected the Long Island area, if it is affected at all?
Yeah, generally speaking, anything that's apartments, multifamily has fared quite well during the pandemic. Everybody was in panic thinking that People weren't going to pay their rent, and people who owned apartment buildings were going to default on mortgages. That never really happened, especially on Long Island. The effect has been very dramatic on the hospitality industry. Hotels got destroyed, especially in downtown locations in Manhattan, Los Angeles, San Francisco. A lot of hotels may never come back. It didn't necessarily affect leisure hotels. In fact, we have 2 loans on 2 hotels out in Greenport, Long Island. And those hotels are doing better than ever because everybody was escaping the city and going out to the North Fork of Long Island and hanging out in the hotels. So, I think it really depended on what kind of hotel you had and where you were located. An office on Long Island has actually fared extremely well because people were fleeing Manhattan and wanting to be closer to home. They've gone to sort of the suburban real estate office market. And, we just signed a new lease for RXR Plaza. We're moving in there in August and it's full. You can't say that very often about RXR Plaza or many of the other office buildings on Long Island. So I think the office market in Long Island and Westchester and New Jersey has benefited tremendously from what's happened in Manhattan. But, I'm a guy that doesn't believe in the death of Manhattan or any of these big cities. And Manhattan is going to bounce back, and it's going to bounce back very fast, much like it did after 9/11. And so
Sure.
I think this is all very temporary. And people who have fled to Florida are already coming back. And so everything that people realize they hate Florida and they'd rather be in New York City now that New York City is opened up again.
And that's always been like the cliche, right? You go to Florida, you always end up coming back no matter what.
Exactly. And now that New York, people leave New York when there's no amenities, right? Why stay there and spend all that money?
Right.
Leave, get out. But now JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they're telling everybody you got to get back in the office. So you can't be in Florida anymore.
Yeah. All right, that's great information, and I appreciate it. And so, Chris, on the same premise, let's first talk about how the pandemic affected your organization, and then can you speak to, similar to Mark, how it affected the market itself from a residential standpoint?
Yes, thank you. And they're kind of intertwined, obviously. Mid-Island Mortgage, we obviously, like everyone else, hit out of nowhere back in March of 2020, it seemed. Now, luckily, and this is the way it works, interest rates are always very low especially when the stock market is low, when the economy is underperforming or in recession. So that gave us an opportunity. And listen, at first, it was scary. There were tons of borrowers of ours that all of a sudden lost their jobs or were panicking about paying their mortgage in general. And there were programs, governmental programs, because again, what we lend, or pretty much any residential lender lends, are government-backed loans, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA. And so people were raising their hand for something called forbearance, or just having issues paying it in general and didn't know what forbearance was. So we had to move quickly, obviously, just like everyone else. We, again, paling in comparison to all the healthcare workers, frontline workers, grocery workers, first responders, we were also an essential business, deemed an essential business, luckily, and it was true, having to handle everybody. So we did not have to close our doors here physically, and we didn't, but a lot of people obviously in this organization worked remotely, and some still are. But as you see, I'm here in my office. I've been here for quite a while, actually, since May of 2020, but that's another story. But we persevered, but we persevered for our clients and for those that would become our clients. People needed help. People needed to afford their homes, refinance their homes. And that was the solution we provided. People were like, hey, listen, I don't know if I can pay my mortgage. Well, listen, let's work together to maybe lower your mortgage payment. Rates are extremely low now. And we moved as quickly as we can for so many people, made sure that they didn't have to go into forbearance, which may have affected, again, it was all, no one had any crystal ball of how that would affect anything. So that forbearance could have affected maybe their credit in the long term. It wasn't going to affect their credit or anything like that in the short term. That was part of the rule. But by getting them into a mortgage they could afford, keep them paying their mortgage. It kept their credit high, it kept them afloat, it kept everything going. So we were very agile and adapted to the market. And yes, we had, and we've been around since 1959, we had the best year ever at Mid-Island Mortgage, a record year, because everyone could benefit from a refinance legitimately. And so we executed upon that. Everyone, where they were remote, wherever they were across the island or the area. I mean, you know, we're sort of a Northeast lender, but most of our business is here in the New York City area, and made it happen, and helped a lot of people along the way, and just found different ways to do it. And you could, you know, there were remote closings, and that's no longer the case anymore technically, but we made it work using FaceTime and Zoom and things of that nature, because, you know, listen, security and fraud and information security is a big part of our business. We had to make sure that was still in place as well. So it was an all hands on deck approach from everyone across the company, from obviously IT and loan officers and processors, and everyone just went to work, worked hard wherever they were, and made it work. And we had a great year, and our clients benefited as well, personally as well. So it was heartwarming in the end that we could do our small part in helping people stay in their homes.
That's good to hear. I'm really happy. So, you know, you all touched not only on how it impacted each and every one of you and your organizations, but you also explained how you adapted. And that's really key, because in any kind of scenario, when it's presented, you know, it's those, and Mark had mentioned something to this point, it's those that adapt and those that can pivot are the ones that are going to be successful and continue to do that. You know, similar to what the LIA did, you know, at the height of it, there was a period where, you know, most of us were furloughed, but the LIA continued to be the LIA and continued to provide information accordingly. We had partnered at that time with Newsday and broadcasted almost weekly through a partnership with them and their Newsday live program, to bring updates on COVID when nobody really knew what it was all about, to assist the Long Island businesses with, you know, through the partnership we had with SBA and explaining the loan programs that were available and payroll protection that was available. So we continued to push forward, and again, it was adapting and it was pivoting, and that's what makes organizations successful. So I'm glad to hear that that's how each and every one of you have continued to push forward. So let's talk a little bit about working remotely. I know, Joe, you had touched on this a little bit. It seems to be what all have been doing. I know we here at the LIA have adapted that program. We're currently on a hybrid schedule where we come in a couple of days a week. The rest of the week, we're all working from home. So talk a little bit about if your organizations are still in that flow, and do you see anything changing as we continue to push forward during this opening process here on Long Island? Joe, let's start off with you.
Sure. So we at Stetson have been in the hybrid mode, but we've been predominantly in the office 3 to 4 days a week throughout most of it. We do have enough office space where we can kind of separate and have that luxury. You know, for our clients, we've been seeing a lot of the smaller businesses coming back into the office full time. We've been dealing with law firms and binderies and schools. I mean, they're coming back full force in September. Everybody's going to be in there. We're starting to actually do site visits again, which is really the best. Do a lot of what we do, going in person and looking at their technologies and speaking to them firsthand, rather than you lose things in Zoom calls. You really, the meaning of a lot of the stuff that you talk about is just, it's lost in translation. So people are starting to get back into the swing of things. They really are starting to adopt going back into the office a few days a week. And I see a lot of places, probably the smaller businesses, because look, a lot of them have office space on Long Island. They can't get out of their leases, and they're not just gonna, you know, let everybody keep working from home, and they're gonna send people back to the office, and they're gonna send people back. And schools are going to be back in session with the kids. So we're going to find ourselves working in person, going there. We try to have as many Zoom or team meetings as we can, but going in person has really been the way that it's going to start going, and people are going to start getting back to a normalcy, depending on how new COVID strains go, of course.
Yeah, we coming out of the summer, we have plans on, moving forward with live events again. We've always been known for hosting probably 4 to 6 of our committee meetings on a monthly basis, and they were live. And when we all adapted to this Zoom and all these other features from a video perspective, you kind of lose a lot. Like Joe, you mentioned the face-to-face, you lose a lot of symmetry. You lose a lot, especially the networking component. It's really lost. And listen, you could do what you could do on Zoom, but I think you could do so much more when I can approach Mark and introduce myself, and Mark can speak to me about his organization, and the same with Joe and Chris, and we exchange contact information, and it's all about relationship building. And I think that's key. And I agree with you, Joe. We see it coming. We actually held our first live event last week, and it was a good way to test the market because it was a golf outing. So it gave everybody the availability to be outdoors, feeling a little bit comfortable, and it was a huge success. And it's the first time that we've actually had a golf outing in probably 10 plus years. We have not had one in quite some time, and it was received well. I think we sold out in a matter of a week's time when it came to the foursomes. With dinner reception and award ceremony was sold out as well. So you could see people want to get out. They want to push forward. They want to get back to normalcy,
Yeah, humans are not meant to sit behind a computer 24/7. That's not what we were. I don't think that's what we were developed for. That's not where our minds are.
Yeah.
So there has to be human interaction, and there has to be reading of body language, and unfortunately, this pandemic set us back. Luckily, it's only been about a year and a half. Hopefully, if people start continuing to follow the right recommendations, we can get back to without having to worry about these other things that are going on in the country and throughout other countries. That's really taking down their day-to-day again.
Yeah. So, Mark, tell us about the whole working remote philosophy with your organization. Are you still doing it? Are you running hybrid? Do you have plans of bringing everybody back in the office if they're not already back in the office at this point?
Yeah, look, I'd echo everything everybody just said, especially with respect to networking. And I'll get to that in a minute. But as far as the office goes, much like Joe, our office is very sort of separated into offices, and you can really be on your own and not near people. So we started coming into the office last June. We shut down the office from March through June, and about 10 to 12 people out of the let's call it 35 people here in Westbury were coming into the office almost every day. But my view of it was, look, you do what you're comfortable doing. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything.
Sure.
And I trust everybody. They were all working hard. And we just made sure that we had meetings consistently with the team to make sure that everybody was in the loop and knew what was going on, because we're a flat organization. Everything we do is collaborative. Everybody needs to be in the know. When we're making a loan on a property, it goes across the entire organization. And so everybody needs to be part of that, which is why it's much better if we're all here in the office, because it sort of, the information flow is much better. But we made it work by just having scheduled meetings more consistently than we otherwise would have had we been here in the office. I will say that we, even though now, I think it was in June, we wanted everybody to come back into the office, and everybody has. And in fact, everybody's been vaccinated in our company. So I think everybody's somewhat comfortable. But we still are using some of what we picked up on during the pandemic. Commercial real estate, you have to get out to see properties. You have to talk to people on a consistent basis all across the country. And we found that it was a good tool for us in getting on the phone with sponsors and brokers on a more face-to-face basis, not having to fly there to meet them all the time. And so now we're using more of that versus having to fly out and go see everybody that we're talking to. But at the same time, in the last few months, we've started flying out to visit a lot of the sites that are within our portfolio. We went down to Florida, we hit the entire state of Florida, and then we hit much of Texas. And if you were there, you'd think that COVID never happened in Florida and Texas.
I don't think it ever did.
And in fact, if I wore a mask anywhere in either one of those states, I could have gotten shot. But they're very, everything's very open there. But getting down there and seeing people face to face makes a world of difference. And I would bet that because we were there face to face, and we were one of the few lenders that has actually showed up from New York to go meet with all of these people, we're getting a lot of deals and a lot of opportunities coming our way because of that face to face interaction. So, it's really important in our industry because we're dealing mostly in the middle market space, which is loans between $10 and $50 million. And that's not institutional. Those are entrepreneurs that deal in that space. And those are people that want to shake your hand, want to meet you face to face, want to talk to you, get to know you and understand who you are before they sign up a loan with you.
And I feel exactly what you said. I think that should be straight across in any kind of business. You know what I mean? Even in what I do, I'm the membership director here at the LIA. It's my job to go out and meet individuals like you three and start to build a relationship. So the same premise, I feel, is what I have to follow. I have to get out there. I have to meet Chris. I have to shake his hand. We have to have conversation. We have to put a plan together, et cetera, et cetera. And listen, we're able to do it, or I should say we were able to do it because, quite honestly, for all the people that are out there, these three individuals I formed a relationship with through the Zoom platform during the past year. They're all relatively new members. They've all come on board in the past couple of months. And do I have plans on getting out to meet them all? Yeah, because it's key. It's key, like Joe said, it's key that Joe, it's what Mark had stated, that he's flying out to meet his clients. It's key. So even though our relationship is formed, it's still not going to stop me from reaching out to them independently and going out and meeting with them, grabbing a bite to eat, slice of pizza, whatever the case may be, because that is key. So, Chris, I know that you had mentioned you have been in the office pretty much your entire life. So how's the rest of the office doing? Have they been in there as long as you? Are they working remotely? Is it hybrid? Talk to us a little bit about how Mid-Island is handling it.
Yeah, we basically, we had the technology to have most people that could just purely work remotely, but there were some collaboratively, a lot of files, things of that nature, that they needed to kind of be here working with one another from the very beginning. Now, I wasn't one of those for the first couple months of the pandemic, but then I was offered the opportunity to come back here. Similar to Joe and Mark, we can spread out here. There's plenty of room to spread out. I have my own office, that's fine. So when the opportunity came for me to come back to the office of May of 2020, and things were, calming down then, if you recall, I jumped at the chance. I knew, listen, could I do everything I had to for my job at home? Sure. And yes, there are times where you could just really work hard and just dive down with no distractions because that's great. But then there's tons of distractions in the house, no matter what. I find that I'm even more efficient, nimble, on top of things here in the office. Just me personally, it doesn't mean for everybody. And getting to that point of it's not for everybody is that, so I came back of May of last year, as did a few others, but there were still plenty of salespeople who really didn't need to be in the office. But we really took almost the CEO intelligently took a real rational risk stratified approach where, listen, we have 85 people in the company now, but they're not all here in Westbury. Some are up in the Boston area, some are up in the DC area, and some are just working from home anyway, they always did. And so we were able to individualize everybody's experience of like, what are you comfortable with? What's your risk assessment? overall for the virus and various other things. And so what we did was that, yeah, there are still people that are remote based on risk assessments. And yes, the vast majority of us here are vaccinated. So there is a comfort factor, but there is a nice collaborative atmosphere when more and more people have come back. I'd say the vast majority came back, basically the salespeople came back in early June. And yeah, and it was an adjustment period for them for sure, and others that came back. But there's just an efficiency gained there. And again, going back to the beginning, why do we even pursue such things, this risk stratified approach, is that we wanted to do the best we could, not only just for our employees, but also for our customers. So, moving fast for them, it was imperative. I mean, people were raising their hands for loans left and right, for assistance left and right. We had to be adaptable in all phases. And again, whether that was working from home, working in the office, working together, we had to be all things to everybody. And, it's gone a long way. I mean, I think we've emerged from it, stronger as a company, more nimble, sort of bulletproof, we feel, in a lot of ways. But also, we were intelligent about it. We would try not to be emotional about it, and moved forward and did what we could, the best for everybody. And and listen, I mean, we had loan officers, again, they were remote. And listen, you could do a lot of paperwork digitally, obviously, and there's a lot of paperwork in the mortgage process. We're taking everything we can in possibly digitally, but not all customers can do that, or not all customers are able to do that and handle it. So yes, they went to their houses in person, and they wore a mask, but we did whatever we had to do within the confines of the safety, and made it all happen for everybody. We'd like to think.
That's awesome. And before the event kicked off, Joe and I were on a little bit earlier, and we were touching on the whole working from home and being distracted thing. At the height of it, when I was home, not only was I working from home, my wife was working from home. My two kids were doing their college classes from home. Who's screaming that there's no Wi-Fi? The laundry machine's going in the background. The dog is barking over here. So when I have the opportunity to come in my office, I'm almost like, oh, this is my zone. I'm golden.
It's my zen.
I am good right here.
I will take people popping into my office anytime over the insanity that goes on in the house after.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what? Listen, we all did it. We all got through it. And really, that's all that matters. We all got our jobs done, and that's really what's key. So
yes,
keeping with momentum on opening up, let's talk about what you feel most optimistic about. So, Joe, what do you feel most optimistic about continuing to take the path that we're taking moving forward?
I'm just really optimistic and just hoping that people follow the right guidelines so that we can get back to the normalcy, so to speak, of seeing each other in person. Even if some people want to still work from home, those in-person meetings you're talking about, Dave, meeting for lunch, going to a client, traveling, it's got to go back. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I'm not really the type to just sit behind a computer all day and just do my work all day behind a screen. And it's not in me. It's not in my DNA. And I know it's not in the DNA of a lot of the people on this conference panel. You want to see human beings. You want to shake a hand. You want to sit across from someone at a lunch table and talk business, or talk sports even, or talk whatever, movies. I'm looking forward to getting to that spot again. Even walking down the hall in my office building, I work in Suffolk County, I still walk with a mask at times because I just don't know who around me is and isn't vaccinated. Even though I'm vaccinated, I know that I could still be a carrier, or I could still get it. I don't want to have that fear. I don't want to walk around having the fear that no matter where I'm going now, I might catch a strain of this and take away from my daily routine.
It's funny with the whole mask thing still. I have been lucky enough to go out and have had some face-to-face meetings, and there's still a lot of uncertainty on the people that you're going to meet. So I always bring a mask. I put a mask on before I'm walking into the facility. And then I have conversation on, hey, are you cool with me wearing a mask? And then I'm vaccinated. Oh, I'm vaccinated. Okay, so we do them, but it is what it is. And just like you said, continue to follow the guidelines. Mark, what are you most optimistic about?
I'm optimistic that, Long Island has really, and Nassau County in particular, has kind of led the way in vaccinations, and, everybody's really taking it seriously. And I feel like, we're going to be leading the pack in the United States with respect to reopening and having a sustainable reopening, as opposed to a lot of the other states that are out there. And I was really excited. I went into the city for the first time earlier this week and had a lunch with, one of our lenders, one of our groups down on Wall Street. And I always dreaded going to the city. I go into the city like once a week, and I was so excited to be there, seeing people moving around, the energy, and it was great to feel that. And so I'm optimistic and excited about Manhattan bouncing back and being what it was in the short term. And I like to look at sort of silver linings all the time. And one thing I think we should all take out of this pandemic is, certainly we lost a lot of lives, and it was horrible. But I think we've learned some technology, and we've realized how you have to adapt and deal with these types of situations. Something like this is likely to happen again, and I think we're better prepared, having been through this once already. And I think the medical technology, the pharmaceutical side of it, has really stepped up in a big way to figure out how to deal with these types of situations.
I agree. And it's like you said, it's they put out a plan in the very beginning, and if any plan that is implemented, if you follow it, should work. And I thought the plan was pretty simple: wear a mask, keep your social distance, wash your hands, wash your face. And I know that myself, my wife, and my kids did that. And knock on wood, we're a year and a half through this, and nobody in my household contracted it because we just followed the rules that were implemented. And it's pretty simple. At least I thought it was pretty simple. You know what I mean? Chris, what are you most optimistic about moving forward?
Yeah, from a overall economic business perspective and whatnot, two things. I would say, yes, I think regardless of, I think the reopening momentum is here to stay, especially in the areas that are heavily vaccinated. I think that'll just push us through. We're, like any virus, there's going to be variants forever. So I think that'll get us pushed through. Everyone they missed everything. They missed it emotionally and spiritually and economically and all those things. And with that, I think there's just, they don't want to go backwards. And they'll just keep moving forward. And I mean, I've just seen, a lot of rebound here in terms of activity and across the board. And it's going to be hard for anyone to be like, all right, let me be scared again or go back and restrict myself again. And I think, like, I did what I had to do. I followed the rules, and I'm moving forward and sticking to it. So I think there's going to be a lot of momentum there, no matter what. And it's just going to keep going, no matter what. Overall. And then secondly, with regard to business, I do think, as we said, and everyone's touched on the same things. I agree. We're going to take the best of what we learned from the pandemic in terms of operations and whatnot, and apply that moving forward. Things that we probably were like, well, that'd be a good idea, but how do we figure it out? How do we figure out hybrid or doing Zoom meetings instead of traveling? When's the right time to travel versus a Zoom and this and that? You're going to right size everything and optimize everything the right way, because yes, we do have the technology to do things remotely when needed. So it's just going to be a constant, I think, like a hybrid overall approach, if it were, is the way to go for everybody in a lot of ways. Again, and that could, for one company, that might be 5 days in the office, every week, or it could be the other way for another company. But maybe I think most companies can be in the middle, where it's like everyone, again, listen, why don't we all meet together on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the office, so we're all together, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, let's stay home, and wherever, vice versa, so you can do that work that you can do at home there, do the other work, the collaborative work here. And not that you can't talk to each other if you're remote that day, and then, hey, let's travel for this, let's travel for that, because FaceTime does, like, pressing the flesh does mean a lot. It goes a long way. And I think back to my momentum play, I think everyone's realized that human touch is just part of who we are, and without it, you are not a human, basically.
I agree.
You don't feel it. You do not feel right, and so I think we took all that for granted for millennia, but I think people will have a long memory with that. I would hope, at least, and just be better for it.
I agree, and those were well said words. Like for us moving forward, I know I mentioned we have plans, I should say, of going back to live events, but they will be on a hybrid type platform, because you're still going to have those individuals who are skeptics and may not want to get in that environment. However, you don't want to not include them. So what we're probably thinking is, when we go back to having those committee meetings, will it be broadcasted live, possibly to give advantage to those who can't attend? Would it just be posted to be seen afterwards? That's a possibility. But again, it just seems like you always have to have those conversations in order to go back to one of the topics that we talked about earlier, is to adapt moving forward until we can get to that, hopefully, place we were over a year and a half ago, when we didn't have any concerns and didn't have any worries.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, I want to get back to the good old days when we were only concerned about cold and flu.
Yeah, it's true. So, quick story. My daughter the other day wakes up, and she's 21, and she works a couple of jobs, and one of them is at a daycare out in West Hampton. And she woke up with a cold, and I told her, I said, listen, unfortunately, I don't think not that you should go to work, but I don't think you can in today's environment. In the past, when you had a common cold, you would go to work and you would do your thing. But I said, listen, today you can't. You have to call in sick. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry. And she did. And she did the right thing and went and got tested. And thank God she was negative. But it's like you said, Joe, the days of the common cold and cough I think it's behind us. And now it's so much more structured and a process than what it was. And listen, it is what it is. We're all adapting to it. We're all continuing to learn and move forward, and we'll see where we go. So for the sake of time, as I know, especially Mark has to jump on another call at 11 o'clock, I just wanted to ask this last question, and it's relative. Like I had mentioned earlier, the three of you and your organizations are relatively new to the LIA. But from your inception, you have been strong supporters thus far. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you anticipate from being a member of the partnership, and what you feel the LIA could do to help your organization? So, Joe, let's just start off with you, as we have been.
Sure. Let me just say from the start, Dave, you and I connected, I think, at the very beginning, and I think it's been great meeting you and working with you over the last few months or so.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Likewise. Same.
Thanks. Stetson is really looking to do more of these meet and greets and do more of these information sessions. We really cater to, we're based on Long Island. We're a homegrown Long Island company. We cater to a lot of Long Island companies, smaller, mid-size, educational. And and if you look, we do post a lot of things educational more than anything else out there on our social media sites. Teaching people how to put two-factor authentication on their phones. We're going to come out with a series of vacation tips, for the ABCs of vacation tips, and what to do pre-planning for a vacation. Cybersecurity really is about, step one is educating yourself. And we found that a lot of people are they don't know. And, we want to get the word out. We want to just let people know that it's not as scary as it is scary, but it's not as scary if you understand what you're doing and how to protect yourself. And we can come in and we can work with you. We can consult, we can come in and do different things. We're a full service organization. We do pen testing, we do assessments. We do digital forensics for anybody who does get breached. So we just want to get the word out there that cybersecurity is a lot to learn. Go take our free resources, just free, absolutely 100% free resources of slides and reels that we do on Instagram, and just learn and educate yourself. That's at least my main goal.
Excellent. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, it's interesting. Lynn, who's right here behind me, she was the one that recommended we join. I've been on Long Island my entire life, 53 years, and everything I do has always been kind of away from New York. I don't really do much in the way of business on Long Island. I don't make many loans on Long Island, and I feel very disconnected from Long Island community on the business side. So I looked at this as an opportunity to get more involved with the business community. Not just for potentially making more loans here on Long Island, but I like to sort of give back. I do a lot of teaching at the universities, at NYU, Cornell, other places where I I teach the classes and do seminars on commercial real estate and talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. I built this company from the ground up, and so I would love to sort of get a little bit more involved in doing some of that for LIA with people who are interested in hearing more about both aspects of that. And certainly I give a lot of time to organizations outside of Acres, so I want to get involved, and I would I can come up with ideas on my own and give you some thoughts as to what I think would be hopefully beneficial to some people out there. But I'd love for any one of you guys to approach me and ask me for advice, or to do seminars, or do whatever.
And that's really what we look for from our members. Like when I'm out there and I'm prospecting for members, one of the key things I say is involvement. Involvement is key in our organization, and any organization for that matter. If you have no plans on getting involved and participating, then this might not be the organization for you. So there's been numerous times where I've turned people away. So I'm just really happy to hear what you two have said. And Chris, what do you feel that you're looking to gain out of this relationship?
Yes, I mean, first, again, LIA's, I've always, known about it. You see it in everything, in all business that happens on Long Island. LIA has a role, over many years, which is great. And Dave, you play a great role, seriously, in making it easier for companies like ours to engage with LIA and other companies. With that said, yeah, I mean, people might be wondering why. Obviously, yes, we're heavily Long Island focused, but why would a residential lender deal with a business-to-business association? And yes, and you could take it to the next step. Yes, we're always interested in working with referral partners like, realtors, contractors, attorneys, accountants, financial advisors. Yes, all of those. But actually, one of our secrets to our success is that we offer a mortgage discount program for unions and corporations and associations. It goes a long way where we set up a program. There's no charge to this program. It's just simply us providing a benefit, perk, however you want to describe it, to your organization. Again, union, corporation, association, and you'll save thousands in closing costs and underwriting fees and whatnot that we waive for the opportunity to work with your members, employees, on and on. And it's worked to the extent that we have a very large union discount program that we've built over recent years, and solely endorsed by many of the largest unions in the state and in the Northeast. And we also work with the Northwell Healths of the world, but it also doesn't mean I can't work with a 5-person company, a 10-person company, 100-person company, 500-person company. It doesn't matter what it is. We'd love to engage with companies and provide them our discounts and service their employees. These days you got to retain your employees through various ways, and if they're getting vetted discounts through somebody such as ourselves, it's all the better. It's just another perk, and in retaining clients employees, retaining employees is important. And yes, so therefore, yes, we are the solely endorsed lender by the New York State Teachers Union and Suffolk Police and FDNY and so on and so forth. And we want to bring that out to the business community across the board. And it's very simple. It's a very simple program. You get a dedicated loan officer working with your employees.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate all of you taking the time out today. As I indicated when we first got together, I try to make these things fun as well as educational. And I think that the four of us together achieved those goals today. So I thank the three of you immensely. I also want to thank, I know Lynn's in the background there, Mark. I mean, it's green. I don't see Lynn, but Lynn and I have had ongoing conversations about the LIA that went back to her days at Teachers Federal Credit Union. Hi, Lynn. So I wanted to thank Lynn for reaching out to me regarding the opportunity to have Acres come on. I'd like to thank Kristen Kelly, who's always my co-pilot for these events, who handles, like I say, the back end of things, because as mentioned, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So when I'm doing these events, I can't really pay attention to anything else. And really, to those who are the participants here, on behalf of our president and CEO, Matt Cohen, as well as myself, we want to thank our members. We want to thank our board of directors, and especially those who participated in today's event. We want to thank you. Please don't forget, we have additional events that are coming up the remaining summer months. So please head over to longislandassociation.org. You can click on our events calendar link and you can see all the upcoming events. Feel free to register there. But on that note, again, thank you everybody for your participation today. And you will be hearing from me, and we will be grabbing a slice of pizza together, I promise.
Hey, thanks, Dave.
There.
All right,
Really
guys,
appreciate
everybody
it.
enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
Summer.